What happens when a beloved British actress sits down for what should be a casual chat and finds herself under attack by a host who seems determined to tear her down? In just 30 seconds, one comment would ignite a firestorm that turned a daytime talk show into an absolute battleground. The studio lights were bright that afternoon as Brenda Blethyn settled into the famous Loose Women panel, her warm smile radiating the kindness she was known for. She had come to talk about her latest project, expecting the usual friendly banter, but what she got instead was something nobody could have predicted. Denise Welch sat at the head of the table, flanked by fellow panelists Kay Adams and Nadia Sawala. The audience applauded as the show returned from commercial break, completely unaware of the chaos about to unfold. "Welcome back," Denise said, her voice dripping with a tone that felt more like a challenge than a greeting. "We are joined today by Brenda Blethyn, who apparently has a new show she wants us all to watch. The apparently hung in the air like poison." Brenda's smile faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly, her professionalism shining through. "Well, thank you for having me," Brenda responded graciously. "It's lovely to be here with you all." Kay Adams jumped in, trying to lighten the mood. "Brenda, you look absolutely wonderful. Tell us about this new project. We are all so excited to hear about it." Brenda began to speak about her latest drama series, her eyes lighting up as she described the character she played. The audience seemed captivated, leaning forward in their seats, but Denise was not interested in letting Brenda have her moment. "I have to stop you there," Denise interrupted, holding up her hand. "Can we talk about something real for a moment? Because I think our viewers are tired of hearing celebrities come on here and just promote things." The studio fell silent. Nadia Sawala shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her eyes darting between Denise and Brenda. "I'm sorry," Brenda said, her voice still polite but confusion clear on her face. "I thought that was why I was invited." "Oh, you were invited," Denise shot back, leaning forward aggressively. "But that doesn't mean we have to sit here and pretend like everything in your world is perfect. Let's talk about the real issues." Kay tried to intervene. "Denise, maybe we should—" "No, Kay," Denise snapped, not even looking at her colleague. "I'm tired of the fake nonsense. Brenda, let's talk about your last film. Critics absolutely destroyed it. How does that feel? To know that you are not as relevant as you used to be?" The audience gasped. This was not the playful banter Loose Women was known for. This was an attack. Brenda took a deep breath, maintaining her composure with remarkable grace. "Well, Denise, not every project resonates with everyone. That is part of being in this industry. You take risks, and sometimes you fail." Denise interrupted again, her voice getting louder. "Sometimes you fail spectacularly. And yet, here you are, asking us to support another one of your projects. Do you not think that is a bit entitled?" Nadia finally spoke up, her voice firm. "Denise, that is really unfair. Brenda is a highly respected actress who has given us decades of incredible performances." "Thank you, Nadia," Brenda said softly, clearly rattled, but trying to keep her dignity intact. But Denise was not finished. She turned to Nadia with a glare that could cut glass. "Oh, so now we are all just supposed to bow down because someone has been around for a long time. That is exactly what is wrong with this industry. People think they deserve respect just because they have been doing something forever, regardless of whether they are actually any good at it anymore." The studio was in complete shock. Audience members looked at each other in disbelief. This had crossed a line, and everyone knew it. Brenda's hands trembled slightly as she placed them on the table. "Denise, I came here as a guest. I did not come here to be insulted." "Insulted?" Denise laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the studio. "You think honest conversation is an insult? This is the problem with your generation. You cannot handle any criticism. You want everyone to just smile and tell you how wonderful you are. Kay tried once more to restore order. Ladies, perhaps we should take a breath. And, "No, Kay!" Denise shouted, her face flushed with anger. "I am so sick of tiptoeing around these so-called icons. Brenda, let me ask you something. Do you actually think anyone under the age of 50 even knows who you are?" Brenda stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. The audience fell into a stunned silence. "I think," she said, her voice shaking but steady, "that I have been in this industry long enough to know when someone is being unnecessarily cruel, and I do not have to sit here and take this." Nadia stood as well, placing a supportive hand on Brenda's arm. "You are absolutely right, Brenda. This is unacceptable." Denise rose from her seat, pointing a finger at Brenda. "Unacceptable? I will tell you what is unacceptable. Coming on this show with your fake humility, expecting us to fawn all over you, like you are some kind of national treasure. You are just another actress who had a few good roles decades ago and is now desperately clinging to relevance." The words hung in the air like a bomb. Kay covered her mouth with her hand, horrified. Nadia looked furious, her protective instincts for Brenda clearly activated. "How dare you?" Brenda said, her voice rising for the first time. "I have never been anything but professional and kind. I came here to share my work with people who might enjoy it. I did not come here to be attacked by someone who clearly has her own issues to work through." The audience erupted in applause, supporting Brenda. Denise's face turned even redder. "Oh, now I have issues?" Denise screamed. "Because I refuse to play the game? Because I refuse to sit here and pretend like you walking through that door is some kind of gift to us all? You know what your problem is, Brenda. You think you are better than everyone else." "That is not true," Brenda said firmly. "And you know it. This is about you wanting to create drama and controversy. This is about you using me as a target for whatever anger you are carrying around." Nadia stepped between them. "Denise, you need to stop this right now. This is disgraceful." Denise turned her fury on Nadia. "Do not tell me what to do, Nadia. This is my show, and I will run it however I see fit." "Actually," Kay interjected quietly, "it is our show. All of ours. And what you are doing right now is not okay." Denise spun to face Kay, her eyes blazing. "Are you seriously taking her side? A guest over your own co-host?" "I am taking the side of basic human decency," Kay replied, her voice calm but firm. "You are being cruel, Denise, and it needs to stop." Brenda gathered her belongings, her hands still shaking. "I think it is best if I leave." "Oh, running away," Denise taunted. "How typical. Cannot handle a real conversation, so you just run." "This is not a conversation," Brenda said, her voice breaking slightly. "This is bullying, and I have seen enough bullying in my life to know when to walk away from it." Nadia moved to escort Brenda off the set. "Come on, love. You do not need this." But Denise was not done. She moved around the table, blocking their path. "You are not leaving until I say you can leave. You came on my show, and you will stay until we are finished." The audience began to boo. The sound was deafening, a clear indication that they were on Brenda's side. Security personnel began to move toward the set, unsure if they needed to intervene. "Get out of my way," Brenda said, her voice low and dangerous. The kindly actress had been pushed too far. "I do not know what happened to you to make you this angry, but I will not be your punching bag." "You think you are so special," Denise hissed, standing her ground. "You think because you have been in a few films and television shows that you are untouchable. Well, you are not. You are just like everyone else, except you are too proud to admit when you are washed up." Nadia pushed past Denise, her arm protectively around Brenda. "Move, Denise, now." "Make me," Denise challenged, her voice dripping with contempt. Kay rushed over, trying to physically pull Denise back. "Denise, please. This has gone too far." "Nothing has gone too far," Denise shouted. "This is real television. This is what people actually want to see, not some boring interview where everyone pretends to like each other. Brenda looked directly into Denise's eyes, her own filled with a mixture of sadness and disappointment. You know what I see when I look at you? I see someone who is so unhappy with herself that she has to tear others down, to feel powerful. And that is truly sad. The words struck like lightning. Denise's face contorted with rage. Get out! Get out of my studio right now! Your studio? Nadia repeated incredulously. You do not own this show, Denise. I said get out! Denise screamed again, her voice cracking. Security! Remove this woman from the building immediately. 2 security guards approached hesitantly, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. They looked at Brenda with apologetic eyes. It is all right, Brenda said to them gently, her grace intact despite everything. I am leaving anyway. I would never want to stay somewhere I am not welcome. As Brenda walked toward the exit, Denise followed her, still shouting. That's right, walk away. Run back to your irrelevant little life. Do not expect to ever be invited back here. Nadia whirled around, fury in her eyes. Denise, if she is not welcome back, then neither am I. What you did today was disgusting. Kay nodded in agreement. I cannot believe what I just witnessed. Brenda, I am so sorry. Brenda paused at the edge of the stage, turning back to face the panel one last time. The audience was on their feet now, applauding her, showing their support. She gave them a small, gracious wave. Thank you all for your kindness, she said to the audience, her voice amplified by the studio microphones. Please know that not everyone in television is like what you saw today. There are still good people in this world. Denise stood in the center of the stage, breathing heavily, her face a mask of anger and something else. Something that looked almost like regret trying to break through. But she pushed it down, maintaining her aggressive stance. Good riddance, Denise muttered, though her voice lacked the conviction it had moments before. Nadia walked off the set with Brenda, refusing to participate any further. Kay stood frozen, torn between her loyalty to her co-host and her sense of right and wrong. The studio audience continued to applaud as Brenda made her way backstage, her head held high despite the tears that now flowed freely down her cheeks. She had maintained her dignity throughout the ordeal, never stooping to Denise's level, never responding with the same cruelty that had been directed at her. Backstage, Nadia embraced Brenda tightly. I am so sorry that happened to you. That was absolutely unacceptable. Brenda nodded, unable to speak through her tears. The shock of the attack was finally setting in, now that she was away from the cameras and the hostile environment. Meanwhile, back on set, Denise stood alone at the panel. Kay had taken her seat again, but refused to look at her co-host. The audience's mood had shifted from shock to anger, their murmurs of disapproval filling the studio. A producer rushed onto the set, speaking frantically into Denise's ear. She brushed him off, grabbing the microphone. Well, that was certainly interesting, she said, trying to laugh it off, but the audience was not having it. The boos grew louder. You should be ashamed of yourself, someone shouted from the crowd. That poor woman did nothing to deserve that, another voice called out. Denise's confident facade began to crack. Oh, come on, people. This is what real television looks like. This is honest conversation. That was not honest conversation. A woman in the front row stood up and said, that was cruel and unnecessary. You attacked a guest for no reason. Kay finally spoke, her voice quiet but clear. She is right, Denise. What you did today was wrong. Denise looked around the studio, perhaps finally realizing the magnitude of what had just happened. The audience that usually loved her was turning against her. Her fellow panelists looked at her with disgust and disappointment. The producers were frantically signaling to cut to commercial. We need to take a break, Kay announced, her professionalism taking over despite the chaos. As the cameras cut away, Denise sank into her chair, the reality of the situation crashing down on her. But it was too late. The damage had been done. Brenda Blethyn had been humiliated and driven from the set, all because of one host's inexplicable hostility. In the green room, Brenda sat with Nadia, still processing what had happened. "I have never been treated like that in my entire career," she said softly. "I do not understand what I did to make her so angry." "You did nothing," Nadia assured her. "Nothing at all. That was all about Denise and whatever demons she is fighting. You handled yourself with incredible grace." Brenda wiped her eyes, taking a deep breath. "I just wanted to talk about my work. That is all I came here to do." Back on set, as the crew prepared to return from commercial, Denise sat in silence. The other panelists refused to speak to her. The audience members were leaving their seats, many of them expressing their disgust loudly. One woman stopped as she passed the stage. "I have watched this show for years," she said directly to Denise. "But after what I saw today, I will never watch again. You should be ashamed." Denise opened her mouth to respond, but found she had nothing to say. The woman walked away, and others followed, a steady stream of audience members exiting the studio in protest. The floor manager approached the remaining panelists. "We are not going back on air," he said quietly. "The decision has been made to end the show for today." Kay nodded, relieved. She stood and walked off the set without a word to Denise. The host sat alone at the table, surrounded by empty chairs and an emptying studio. Meanwhile, Brenda was preparing to leave the building. Staff members approached her one by one, apologizing for what had happened, expressing their admiration for how she had handled the situation. "You were amazing," one young production assistant said. "You never lost your cool, even when she was being so horrible." Brenda smiled sadly. "Thank you, dear. I learned a long time ago that responding to cruelty with more cruelty never helps anyone." Nadia walked her to her car, still fuming about the incident. "I cannot believe Denise would do that. I have seen her be difficult before, but never like this. Never so personally vicious." "People carry pain in different ways," Brenda said wisely. "Sometimes it comes out as anger directed at others. I feel sorry for her, actually." "You feel sorry for her?" Nadia asked incredulously. "After what she just did to you?" "Yes," Brenda said simply, "because happy people do not act that way. Something is clearly very wrong in her life, and she took it out on me. That does not excuse her behavior, but it does explain it." Nadia shook her head in amazement. "You are a better person than I am. I am furious on your behalf." "I appreciate that," Brenda said, embracing Nadia one more time. "Thank you for standing up for me in there. It meant more than you know." As Brenda drove away from the studio, the full weight of what had happened began to sink in. She had been publicly humiliated, attacked for no reason, and then thrown out of the studio like an unwanted guest. The experience had been traumatic and bewildering. But even in her hurt and confusion, Brenda held on to her dignity. She had not allowed Denise's cruelty to change who she was. She had not responded with equal viciousness. She had simply stood up for herself and walked away with her head held high. Back at the studio, Denise sat in her dressing room, the silence deafening. No one had come to check on her. No one had offered support or understanding. She was alone with the consequences of her actions, and for the first time, she seemed to realize just how badly she had miscalculated. The incident had lasted less than 20 minutes from start to finish, but in that short time, everything had changed. Relationships had been damaged, trust had been broken, and one beloved actress had been subjected to an attack that no one who witnessed it would ever forget. What had started as a simple promotional appearance had devolved into one of the most shocking moments in talk show history. And at the center of it all was Brenda Blethyn, who had done nothing wrong except show up and try to share her work with the world, only to be met with inexplicable hostility and aggression from a host who seemed determined to tear her down. The green room had become a sanctuary of sorts, where Brenda sat collecting herself, while Nadia remained by her side like a protective shield. Other members of the production team trickled in, their faces showing a mixture of embarrassment and sympathy. "I have worked on this show for 8 years," one camera operator said, approaching Brenda cautiously. "I have never, ever seen anything like what just happened out there. I want you to know that most of us are absolutely horrified." Brenda managed a weak smile. "Thank you. That means a lot." A makeup artist brought her tissues and a glass of water. "You were brilliant," she whispered. "The way you kept your composure when she was screaming at you like that. I do not think I could have done it." "You just do what you have to do," Brenda replied softly, her voice still carrying the tremor of suppressed emotion. "You cannot control how other people behave, only how you respond." Nadia squeezed her hand. "That woman out there could learn a thing or two from you about grace under pressure." Meanwhile, the studio floor had become a scene of controlled chaos. Producers huddled in corners, speaking in hushed but urgent tones. The remaining audience members filed out, many of them still muttering their disapproval. Kay Adams stood near the edge of the set, her arms crossed. Her face was set in hard lines, disappointment etched into every feature. A senior producer approached her. "Kay, can we talk about what just happened?" "What is there to talk about?" Kay responded. "Denise verbally assaulted a guest on live television. She humiliated a woman who has given this industry decades of beautiful work." Back in the green room, Brenda was starting to regain some of her strength. The initial shock was wearing off. "You know what bothers me most," she said to Nadia. "It is the message it sends, that being mean and aggressive is somehow more authentic than being kind." Nadia nodded, and the audience saw right through it. They were booing her, Brenda. The door opened, and Kay entered, rushing over to Brenda. "Brenda, I am so incredibly sorry," Kay said. "What Denise did was unforgivable." Brenda stood and embraced her. "I know that. You tried to stop her." "I should have done more," Kay said. "You were in an impossible position," Brenda reassured her. "Do not blame yourself." Kay pulled back, wiping at her eyes. "I have been working with Denise for years, but what I saw today, I have never seen before." Brenda sat back, down. "Sometimes people are fighting battles we know nothing about. That does not excuse her behavior, but it might explain it." "You are too kind," Kay said. A young production assistant knocked on the door. "Excuse me, Miss Blethyn. Your car is ready whenever you would like to leave." Brenda nodded. "Thank you. I will be right there." As she gathered her things, both Nadia and Kay stood with her. "Please know that you have friends here," Nadia said. "I know," Brenda said, "and I appreciate everything you both did." They walked together through the backstage corridors, past crew members who stopped to offer words of support. Each kind word helped to soothe the sting. At one point, they passed near Denise's dressing room. The door was closed, but they could hear muffled voices inside. Kay paused, listening. "That is the executive producer. I imagine Denise is getting quite the talking to right now." Brenda remained silent. Whatever was happening behind that door was between Denise and the powers that be. They continued walking until they reached the exit where Brenda's car waited. "Will you be all right?" Kay asked, genuine concern in her voice. "I will be fine," Brenda assured her. "I have been through worse in my life, believe it or not. This was unpleasant, certainly, but it is not going to break me." "That is the spirit," Nadia said, giving her one last hug. "And please, if you ever want to talk about what happened, or if you need anything at all, you have my number." "Mine too," Kay added. "We are here for you." Brenda smiled, this time with more warmth. "Thank you both. You are good people, and this industry needs more like you." As she settled into the car, Brenda looked back at the studio building one last time. Somewhere inside, Denise was likely facing the consequences of her actions. Somewhere inside, people were trying to figure out how to handle the fallout from what had just occurred. But none of that was Brenda's concern anymore. She had walked away with her dignity intact, her character unblemished, and her spirit, though bruised, unbroken. The car pulled away from the curb, and Brenda watched as the studio grew smaller in the distance. She thought about the young actress she had been decades ago, just starting out in the business. She thought about all the challenges she had faced, all the obstacles she had overcome. This would just be another story in a long career full of them. An unpleasant chapter, to be sure, but not the end of the book. Meanwhile, back at the studio, the aftermath continued to unfold. Word of what had happened was spreading quickly through the building. Staff members who had not witnessed the confrontation firsthand were hearing about it from those who had, each retelling adding to the growing sense of disbelief. In her dressing room, Denise sat across from the executive producer, whose face was a mask of barely controlled fury. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" he asked, his voice low but intense. "Do you understand the position you have put us all in?" Denise, for once, seemed to have run out of words. The fire that had burned so brightly during the confrontation had dimmed, leaving behind only ashes and regret. "She was being so fake," Denise finally said, but her voice lacked conviction. All that sweetness, all that humility. It was making me absolutely sick. "So you decided to attack her?" the producer responded incredulously. "You decided that the appropriate response was to verbally assault a beloved guest on live television?" "I was just being so honest," Denise protested weakly now. "No," the producer said firmly. "You were being cruel. There is a difference. And you know it." Outside the dressing room, Kay and Nadia stood together, processing everything that had happened. "I cannot believe we are still here," Nadia said. "After what we just witnessed, I am not sure I can sit at that table with her again." "I know what you mean," Kay agreed. "But we also have a responsibility to this show and to our viewers. We cannot let one person's terrible behavior destroy everything we have built." "But how do we move forward from this?" Nadia asked. "How do we just pretend it did not happen?" "We do not pretend," Kay said firmly. "We acknowledge it. We address it. And we make it clear that what happened today is not acceptable and will not be tolerated." Their conversation was cut short by the arrival of another producer, this one looking frazzled and overwhelmed. "Ladies, we need to have a meeting. All the panelists, all the producers. We need to discuss how we are going to handle this situation moving forward." As they followed the producer to the conference room, both women knew that the show they had known and loved had fundamentally changed. The trust had been broken, the atmosphere poisoned. Whether it could be repaired remained to be seen. The conference room filled with people, all wearing similar expressions of shock and concern. The executive producer, who had been speaking with Denise, joined them, looking exhausted. "I am not going to sugarcoat this," he began. "What happened today was a disaster. It was unprofessional, it was cruel, and it was completely unacceptable." Kay raised her hand. "What about Brenda? Has anyone reached out to her to apologize officially?" "I have spoken with her agent," the producer replied. "An official apology will be issued from the show." "She should be removed," Nadia said bluntly. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room loudly. "Our viewers deserve better than what they saw today," Kay said firmly. "They deserve respect and professionalism." The meeting continued, with various people weighing in on what should happen next. But underlying all the discussion was a simple truth. Something had broken today that might never be fully repaired. What happened on that stage was more than just a confrontation. It was a moment that revealed something fundamental about character and the price of cruelty.